paths of the people, the first footsteps across the land. Setting, the frozen land bridge of Beringia, 15,000 years ago. The world was colder then, a vast white silence stretching from one horizon to the other. Herds of mammoth and bison moved like shadows across the frozen tundra, their breath rising like smoke against the wind. Behind them came small bands of people, hunters with stone-tipped spears, women carrying children and seeds, elders who whispered prayers to the ice and sky. They did not call it a migration. To them, it was life. Food lay beyond the horizon, and so their feet carried them forward. Step after step, they crossed a land bridge of ice and earth that would one day vanish beneath the sea. This crossing was the first great journey, the birth of Native America. As they spread south, the land unfolded into endless variety. Towering forests of pine and oak, rolling prairies filled with buffalo, deserts of redstone and sparse grass. Everywhere they went, the people adapted, naming rivers, honoring mountains, weaving stories into the earth itself. Each family, each band, became a thread in a larger pattern, stretching from the Arctic seas to the warm jungles of Central America. This was not just a migration, it was the beginning of identity. The first trails pressed into the soil by bare feet became the roads of the future. These paths would grow into great networks of travel and trade, carrying not just goods, but knowledge, ceremony, and story. And so, from the silence of ice, a new world began to stir. The footsteps of those first people became the heartbeat of a continent. But the journey was only beginning. What started as a crossing for survival would grow into something far greater, a vast web of connections stretching across rivers, mountains, and nations. And that story of trade and movement is where we turn next. The first footsteps had carried the people across mountains and deserts, rivers and plains. Now, generations later, those paths began to weave into something larger, a living web of trails that stretched across the entire continent. These were not roads built with stone, but trails worn smooth by moccasins and canoes, carrying the lifeblood of native nations. Trade. Across the southwest, turquoise was pulled from deep veins in the earth and polished into stones that glowed like the desert sky. Those stones traveled hundreds of miles, carried in pouches, exchanged hand to hand until they reached the villages of the Great Plains. From there, they might move farther east into the woodlands, where copper from the Great Lakes was shaped into tools and ornaments, then traded back west. Shells from the Gulf found their way to the hands of hunters in the north, while obsidian blades from volcanic mountains traveled all the way to the Mississippi Valley. But these trade trails carried more than goods. They carried knowledge, songs,